When you have two teams from the same region going up against one another, you're best friends. But in the server, you want that win. You want it so bad.
Our two Brazilian teams in the grand final for the first time ever. Ninjas in pajamas!
Some tournaments you have a better feeling about winning, and that one, it was ours.
Our second Brazilian team, Team Liquid!
NIP was very well prepared. They were like top one team in Brazil.
It goes to Brazil no matter who wins it, but for NIP, it means a lot.
We lost to SSG a year before, and then we knew like in our hearts that this is an invitation we need to win, you know.
It was a very difficult time for us as a team.
It was pretty hard, like especially because of what happened to me at the moment. Like I lost my dad during the competition.
In that final, I think Liquid kind of won people's hearts because of the tragedy that had happened, but because they had also played incredibly well throughout the tournament and through the grand final. They gave us an incredibly entertaining game.
Sidecore goes big with 4 kills to push them over the line on Cafe, and that is going to be NIP 2-0 on maps. There you go, the kill comes in. He knew exactly where the man was coming from, and that's going to be Team Liquid taking our second map of Chalet. Palu, 1 second left to go. Diffuser goes down in the absolute nick of time, but Moringa, he gets a huge kill, He gets a huge kill. We're going all the way to 5. We're going to find out who really is the best in Brazil. Palu cannot find the kill. Out comes the Nitro. Shot out by Pino. That is the round in 2020. Brazilian hearts were broken, but like a phoenix, NIP rise from the ashes to claim the hammer at the 6th Invitational 2021.
It was one of the best days of my life. I think we can compare that as a Brazilian team winning the World Football Cup.
I think winning the 6th Invitational was the best feeling ever I had.
Was the best moment of my life in the sports scene for sure. I was crying a lot. I was out of control.
We were very sad to lose, but we understood the limits of the team at the time, and we were very proud. But also it was very nice to see another Brazilian get a title.
After that SI, like I think it was a motivated thing to grow as a region and make it through a lot of other tournaments.
At the end of the day, everyone is just friendly. So yeah, we have a very nice relationship.
The friendships run deep and it goes beyond shouting and cheering on stage. You know, all of that is part and parcel of this. It's a respect that is given and earned between these players.
It's an awesome feeling for everyone, you know, not just us. We win for everyone.
I remember things 7 years ago.
Naquela época, tudo era menor.
Mais en chacun d'entre nous, la flamme brûlait déjà.
Über die Jahre sind wir zusammengewachsen.
E hoy son millones los que nos apoyan.
皆さんの応援は我々の原動力です
Ve sevdiğimiz işi yapmamıza olanak sağlıyorsunuz.
และสิ่งเหล่านี้จะเป็นไปไม่ได้ถ้าหากเราไม่มีพวกคุณ
Devemos tudo isso a vocês.
Därför vill vi säga
Gracias.
Obrigado.
ขอบคุณครับ
Danke.
ありがとう
Kiitos.
Merci.
From the bottom of our hearts, thank you.
Hello, welcome back to the second best of one of today. We have Six Karma up against Spacestation Gaming, and if you guys can hear, both of these teams are absolutely in the mood to get this best of one going and secure their spot into phase 2. Let's have a look at Group C to see what has been going on. Wow, I said C twice. That's pretty funny, but anyway, Globe up against Sonics. So Sonics have now qualified through that best of one for phase 2. Northampton is going to be heading up against Riven to see which team is going to qualify as well for phase 2, as we can only send 2 out of the 4 teams to phase 2, and 2 will be sent home. This best of 3 is coming up later today, but let's have a look at Group B, which is the group that is currently competing. Six Karma up against Spacestation Gaming is this upper bracket final. It's a best of 1. Winner immediately heads into phase 2. Loser drops to the low bracket and is going to be going up against Ninjas in Pajamas to determine the second team from Group B to be heading to phase 2 in a best of 3 format. Now, because you have the double elimination bracket, there's a little bit of a safety net, so I do love to hear the screams and everything from the players. They're very excited to get it going, but we also have our casters that are also going to be excited to get it going. At least I think. I mean, Lynx, you don't look too happy.
Listen, guys. Like, you know, I love SSG, I really do. But they're playing basically like the Mexican scrim partner of North America for the past 2 years.
Okay.
So this might be wrapped, because I bet 6K no SSG's map pool better than SSG no SSG's map pool.
That's a lukewarm take. I like that. Blue, you wanna add on to that one?
Yeah, that kind of goes both ways, though, doesn't it? If they've been screwing with them quite a bit, you assume that SSG has a pretty good handle on the 6 Karma as well.
But does SSG have Aki Beal? I didn't think so. I did not think so.
You know what? I also do not have the skills to cast this game, so I'm gonna let you guys take this one over.
All right, well, thank you very much. And we're going to be getting ready to jump into this one in just a second, ladies and gentlemen. The players are already in the lobby, so we're going to be entering the game in hopefully just a few moments here. 6 Karma up against SSG. Both these teams, of course, winning their opening matches back a few days ago, and now only one is going to be able to move forward and outright qualify, as we just saw the Sonics do, of course, in the previous matchup for Phase 2. I do believe we already have the map veto ready to go, so let's go ahead and take a quick look at that. There it is, and we banned it all the way down towards Bank. This will actually be the final first play of a new map here at the Major. We've played every single map already except for Bank, so with this play right here, we've played every single map so far already on day number 3. Very cool.
I appreciate all the teams today, because going into the day was Theme Park Bank. We got Theme Park, now we have Bank. Very nice. This is also a very interesting map pick from SSG, as they were, I believe, I didn't see if they banned first or second, unfortunately. It's eluding me. Either way, it is interesting because 6 Karma are actually 2-0 on Bank through the regular LATAM season, and SSG are 0-2 on Bank doing the NAL season. But as you and I were talking in the green room, I actually quite like this map for SSG because it is a map where they are starting on the attack, and that means that with 6K starting on the defense, they have to hold a lot of map control, have to hold it for an extended period of time, and against a more experienced team like SSG, that's going to be difficult for a more inexperienced team like 6 Karma to do.
Yeah, it seems very much like they took a look at the matchups both for themselves and that 6 Karma played into a few days ago and tried to pick into it based on that. And I generally think this is a good pick for them as well. We'll analyze that more as we get deeper into the matchup. Bans are coming in, so let's take a look at those. Dokkaebi is going to be the first operator to get knocked out by 6 Karma. SSG has their response operator immediately incoming, and it's getting interesting here as Osa ends up getting banned out for them.
Yeah, I think the Dokkaebi ban is very good from 6 Karma, not only just to make SSG clearing the map a lot harder, but it's also just a good ban in general, as her and Ying are kind of the two more off ops or cheesier ops that get banned. Osa's also a very interesting pick and a very interesting combination with that Mira, but one thing I do want to talk about as 6 Karma move to their defensive bans is they don't really like to ban the Valk, Azami, or Solus combo that a lot of teams do. They like to ban Cade on this map especially, so if that's what they stick with, no, they will ban the Solus, but that does mean that Valk and Azami are up for 6 Karma's defenses, and now both of those tools being in the hands of the defense is going to make holding on to parts of the map like CEO on even a Locker's defense a lot easier and allow them to stay or get kills for a lot longer and make getting those kills a little bit of an easier affair.
This is going to put some of that extra pressure onto SSG. This was definitely their weaker side in the previous matchup they played into, and I would generally expect this to be a little bit of the weaker side for 6 Karma as well, based on the play that I was able to see from their first game anyway. So both teams being pushed to their limit, but I definitely think SSG is the one that needs to perform here, at least inside of the first half. We're going to be looking to see that performance out of them. So let's see if we get it as we go right to the basement for 6 Karma's first defense.
We will see that Azami, but will not see that Valkyrie. Another important operator that we've not mentioned so far that's been unbanned is that Ying. SSG, alongside many teams, love playing that Ying, but SSG as well do very much love playing it, and that can throw 6 Karma completely off guard in the late round if that Ying survives. They're able to use those Candelas, but also in the early round as well. In their game against NIP, 6 Karma very much like getting in the face of NIP, taking gunfights, getting aggressive, utilizing players like Aki Beal with very good guns like the Scorpion, or in this case, the FO12, and using a Candela or two in the early round can throw that initial setup from the defense very off guard. It is a roam from 6 Karma. They, of course, have some players on the site or around the site, like in Garage, but one player around the top floor already. Some intel also being gathered outside of Garage. 6 Karma looking to hold a decent bit of the map for at least half the round.
You can see those first bits of control being taken, or at least attempting to be taken by SSG now, obviously being held back by the roam. Carter mentioned there just a few moments ago, most active on the inside of open areas. We saw Morph playing into that a few seconds prior. Soko definitely trying to build up for something at the top of main stairs too, and he has the support of that Echo drone bouncing up and down. He's seeing our pip now over the top left side of your screen there, so it's going to get the vision on the player that just crossed main stairs, but Soko needs to find the timing for this. Tries to go for a little bit of a pre-fire, but the interruption downstairs and Tellers is going to scare him off back down into the depths of a basement. Good play for the time being, but unfortunately minimal effectiveness of slowing down SSG here.
there are still 2 players around the first floor that they need to be worried about. Akibil going for a flank, who finds one with the pistol of all weapons. Skimsy also getting active on blue stairs. The clear from SSG stopped in its tracks and taken down 2 different players. 3v5 now, over 1:40 left, and SSG don't even have control of the first floor. Akibil looking to push it further. He has to use the pistol as he's used the shotgun as his primary. That means he should be fairly easy to cut down at long range, and indeed he is. Through the wall, Jane, I know, finds his man, but that's still 6. No, never mind! Huge heads-up play by Merc. That's why you bring the shotgun on Amaru, I suppose.
Surprising lack of clarity there for SSG up until those final moments, of course, when they finally sealed the deal on those 2 kills. Was definitely getting a little bit crazy for both teams. But 6 Karma eventually loses control over the situation. Ultimately, though, with the 2 trades they found against Forest and Hot and Cold, they're not too far out of a winnable scenario here, especially considering we're now down to the 3v3 time, however, is still very much in the favor, in my opinion, of SSG, as they still have over a minute to play this out and make the descent down into the basement. We'll have to see if they can pull that off here. From a utility perspective, obviously, they are a little worse for wear on the hard breach side of things, but most of that's already been taken care of. So in reality, once again, not going to end up missing too much, especially when you look at security down here. Would have been nice to still have the Hibana to potentially take out part of the side panel, but it's by no means required necessarily for them to make a successful take.
Yeah, but keeping that Ying alive, even though you might just funnel yourself through doorways or one hard breach hole, having those Candelas and having those smokes, you can send the Amaru in, not only for maybe a plant, but an early kill. Unfortunately, Morph takes down that Amaru. Fultz still getting the bomb down. The 2v3 plant can be so difficult, but with no C4s or Yokais in time, Jaina No is able to get a kill, and Fultz is able to get the bomb down. Now a 2v1, make that a 1v1 for 6 Karma. But Cheeto just had very loose intel and downs Fultz as he retreats. Going wild in round number 1. Very excited already. Pachito can get the defuse and get 6 Karma their first round.
And that play from Pachito right there is going to be a factor that SSG will have to watch out for this entire game. The individual prowess from pretty much every single member of 6 Karma in a clutch situation like that is second to none right now. Beautifully played there in order to bring it back inside of the 1vx and still come out on top here of a very tense situation. They were immediately pushed back into a corner pretty much right from the start of the round. Only about a minute of active roam actually being played out there. But even so, SSG just could not control it, unfortunately, even with the plant going down to the ground.
And in the early round, opposite side of the execute, SSG will need to keep a handle on those 6 Karma roamers, because even if you don't necessarily want to take a gunfight with them and kill them and make it a 4v5 or a 5v3 early on, you got to know where they are, because 6 Karma are going to play very fluid, they're going to play very aggressive, and on a map like Bank, it can sometimes play against the defense if, let's say, on a side like Open Area, you want to extend into CEO, you basically have to hold all of the second floor for maybe about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes of the round, depending on how quick or how successful the attack is. But if they're playing a bit more of a loose roam, it can end up biting the attack, because that's a very large part of the map that the defense could be lurking or could not be lurking. SSG's intel needs to be on point, and they can't drop 2 players early on.
See if they can make correction upon that, as that was a bit of an issue in their game versus Elevate as well. So similar problems already showing up, but it's only 1 round ultimately, so of course plenty of time to correct on those. Same can be said for 6 Karma, of course, when it comes to the effectiveness of their overall roam game. Away from that, they are spawned in now on SSG's side of things and immediately looking to try and track down that roam game. As you can see, the immediate E1D charge coming out there from Fultz, and then to back him up, we've also got J90 sitting on the Jackal. They're providing plenty of intel about this specific position of those members of 6 Karma roaming around the map.
Yeah, I like that switch to the Jackal. It indicates they are going for more of a full clear and are looking to address those roamers. Instead of just, quickly take map control and slice into the map, they're not just looking to push them back, but they are looking to track them down, make sure they not only have the intel, but they have the option to go for those kills if they want. This is a very good position for Merc, and likely we're going to see some of the action in this round to cut the top floor in the middle, to deny any rotations down not only the spiral stairs, but also marble stairs as well. Hot and Cold now opening up the square door. So many avenues of rotation back for the defense, now completely cut off. Forrest even rappelling into the top floor. He's a bit by himself. Akibil gets 1, Pachito the second, and with Fultz tagged on as the third, it's another poor start for SSG.
6 Karma as well, and haven't even lost the positioning just yet. Peeling away a little bit from their initial spots just because of the fact that, again, they've already gotten 2 kills. There's no need to stay that exposed when they already have that much of an advantage. They will fall back closer to the site, but either way, 6 Karma very much in the driver's seat of this situation after finding those 2 kills, and some pretty considerable damage against Fultz, of course, that was found as well. He's at sub 50 HP now, so SSG really have to try and come together to figure out a way to bring this back from a 3v5, and you can see it is certainly kind of a callback moment for them where they have to sit away analyze the situation, rely heavily on that drone play in order to figure out what the next best step is going to be, as they don't really have a winning option immediately available to them. May find it soon here, though, checking out some of the exposed players sitting over by main stairs. That may end up being the priority, or they may just directly try to play this into the site for lack of a choice.
Still relying on 6 Karma to make some mistakes. They have some options for soft breach, Merc with those breach charges, and Jane, I know with that secondary shotgun. There's some options to create new angles to watch the defense. Jane, I know with those Inox scans as well, still has 2 more. Morphed and Akibil. Now on low HP, so anybody sitting inside of square from SSG can work those angles, or even in stock work this angle to find a pick onto 6 Karma. Those are the options they have right now. They need to find 1, 2 players at best if they really want to make this more manageable. And right now, to 6 Karma's credit, not really giving any easy openings, but there we go. Janino finds 1, Akibil down 2. SSG have their equalization.
So with that, SSG find a way to get back into this one now, and now pushing a step further as well. Fultz, even at minimum HP, continues to contribute, and his teammates show up out of absolutely nowhere in the final few seconds to shut down the round.
Right as I went to give 6 Karma some credit for their positioning, we see Morph take a little bit of a risky angle, assuming that nobody was going to be on that printer window, and he's just caught proning in front of it. That was the beginning of the end for 6 Karma, because SSG, they took that time to reset and didn't necessarily take that time to use their drones. They did do some, but it was really taking the time to use that soft destruction that really made that a lot easier, because all of 6 Karma had retreated onto the site, and with some players already on low HP, and in the case of Morph, giving up an easy engagement to the attack, SSG had their angles. They were able to make it a 3v3, and then once Fultz dropped into the site and started to go for the bomb, 6 Karma moved towards him, tried to stop the plant, and SSG played a perfect strategy to cover not really Fultz going for the plant, but baiting Fultz to try and bait out engagements from 6 Karma that they gave in spades.
So a perfect counter there from SSG, immediately gets them back into the game. Now we'll have to see just how far they can push that potential advantage here. Like I said, this is the tough side, at least in my analysis, for them. So the more rounds they're able to garner for themselves here on the attacking side, the better off they're going to be when they switch back over to the defense, where, for those who aren't aware, they managed to pull off a perfect 6-0 half when they played Oregon versus Elevate in their first game of the tournament. Away from that, though, they are spawned in now. Pretty much full repick, if I was looking at it correctly there, for most of this team, as they may have not been expecting to go to this site, which is the upstairs hold now, coming in from 6 Karma, so a lot of repel play about to be seen here, meaning it might have a bit of a slow opener to this round, as SSG try to figure out the best way to insert themselves initially.
Very quick insertion by Merc. Moving into stock, we've seen a lot of players recently in this new stage of Rainbow Six take that Amaru and run the Supernova, try to get in close and quick, take an engagement that the defense is very unlikely to win unless they too have a shotgun. Merc is backed off decently quickly, just opened up those barricades and immediately fallen back outside of the building. 6 Karma maintaining a lot of the standard positions you'd expect, somebody over by Kanto, somebody playing inside of the CEO desk, and many inside the site or around stock as well. Sako caught rotating again. Another angle that 6 Karma will need to worry about. Players playing on that rappel, that main lobby rappel you see Merc at, you see the Hibana of J9O at. Just running around on the top floor, not paying attention to it, not giving the respect SSG deserve. It's going to cost them, and now Fultz is moving in for the kill.
Fultz trying to prime that nade up on top. Got to be keeping in mind as well, the res still going off in the midst of this one. Thankfully, the nade is at least the first one. Not going to go deep enough. The second one, though, nearly takes out a second player, but Merc and the rest of the team already finding their entry impact. And again, out of absolutely nowhere, they stun their opponents inside of the site and steal control of the round away.
Well, these early rounds have been some of the most explosive we've seen this entire tournament. This probably being the icing on the cake, or the #1 in my mind. The round pretty much begins and ends in the span of 20 seconds or so. And SSG take the win by the end of it. I mean, 6 Karma running a pretty standard CEO defense. SSG find their man by sitting on the main lobby rappel. Very common angle. But then Merc with that Amaru sends it on in. Accounts for 6 Karma being very focused on that main stairs, as that's where they think the push is coming from due to the nades, the angles, the utility. And Merc taking them completely off guard was the spark that SSG needed to light that fire and immediately send it into the site and then take that round.
All All right, well, SSG certainly setting the expectations quite well for themselves right now based on the first few rounds we've seen played out here. A little bit rough, of course, on round number 1, where you see that clutch potential come out from the individual members of 6 Karma, most notably Cheeto, of course, who picks up that clutch. But since then, it's gone all quiet as SSG has stunned 6 Karma's Insight defense 2 rounds in a row. And very likely we're going to see at least a little bit of them get stunned once again. Obviously, it'll be Forrest doing that work here. So he's going to bring the Blitz into play for the first time in this map.
And Forrest's job on this Blitz when they play Bank isn't even necessarily to get kills. It's often just to stun the blue player, and if they go 1 for 1, that's fine, because you've taken the blue stairs position. It often can be just as powerful as getting a kill anywhere else. But the smoke, oddly enough, from 6 Karma is not the one playing blue stairs at the moment. It's the Melusi. Akibel getting close on that dirt tunnel as Forrest makes his way to main stairs. On solo HP, 1 toxic canister could be the end of him. The Melusi will retreat off the back of it, so they have blue stairs. Now 2 defenders sitting inside of server, but they retreat very quickly. So map control almost established from SSG. Wasting a lot of time with those smoke canisters, but Akibel is now out. So all the plant denial they have for the late round is that C4 and those yokais, and both of them missed on the previous basement attack.
We're gonna get downed. So that happened off screen. J9O still trying to look for his first entry as well by Beepers, but he's being very quickly cornered as well. Hot and Cold ends up getting taken down, and the roam comes to collapse. Shuts down 4 to 5 members of SSG. Fultz, in the meanwhile, roaming towards open area, completely detached from this scenario here, as he only just took up initial positioning inside of the building. He's going to be a little confused as to what to do here. Not a whole lot of intel to play on as 6 Karma get a bit of revenge for the past 2 rounds from SSG here. And now they pull off their own bit of stun work here to completely shut down the execute and leave 0 room for a response, realistically, for Fultz here inside of round 4.
This is an all or nothing kind of game, John. You either get all the kills or none of the kills.
Very much.
And that's just how it's going to be. Yokai's gathering intel, everyone from 6 Karma flooding upstairs. Fultz drops down to the site, which is now completely vacant. Unfortunately, he lacks the diffuser, nothing in hand. So he'll just have to wait and bait the defense back to the site. I've never seen this position before, John. I've never seen this happen in my 3-year history casting. This is a very odd one.
This is a bit awkward. So we'll see how Fultz is going to try to work out of this. Realistically, at this point, he's just buying time for his teammates to kind of chat things up inside of the TeamSpeak outside of him playing this. And obviously, Fultz is kind of padding his stats aside from that one. He's sitting at 4-1
Got his
right
one.
now. So
you got it.
Let's see what else he can build up for. There's number 2 being teed up, but like I said, can't really stick his face out for more than a second or 2, as it's pretty much a guarantee he'll get traded if he does, even here. Oh, okay.
No shot.
There we go. All right, tries to go for another one. Finally meets the M590 at a point-blank angle. So that one's going to go pretty much exactly as you'd expect it to. As once again, overall, still an outright shutdown there from 6 Karma.
Everyone watching, if you are still confused at what kind of game we're going to get, I don't know what to tell you. But this is just going to be one of those games where you just got to sit back and enjoy the ride. You might not learn the most, but you are going to have a hell of a good time. And if you are going to learn anything, is that do not give 6 Karma an inch of space. Because if you think they'll only take a mile, you are sorely mistaken. Lockers now won by 6 Karma. Only site they've won so far, but had the most dramatic of results. In round 4, they'll move to Tellers, where again, we'll likely see a similar setup to that open area defense, some presence on the top floor inside of Executive and CEO, and likely around Stock as well. And Cheeto has promoted himself to Doc, so him, Sako, and Akibel will likely be, well, basically everyone except Morph is going to try to take a gunfight with SSG early on.
Again, after seeing the success of their roam game collapse back on round 4, just the previous round that was played out there, they're really going to double down, if not triple down on that here. Pretty much everyone's got like a roam-centric operator.
Triple down
here.
even.
Yeah. If you take a look there, Melusi's throwing all utility down. She's free to roam about. Soko doesn't really have any, so he's free to roam about, and he pretty much, that's his whole job. Cheeto on the dock, kind of straightforward there. Akibel again, the same thing, and Morph once more is able to put those mute jammers down and pretty much do whatever he wants aside from that one. So this is going to be a very free-flowing lineup here, meaning that SSG probably going to be heavy on the drones if they're able to properly read into this one for the opening few moments of this round. This is important to note too, do not have that very heavy anti-roam utility they were bringing in at least one previous round. We don't have the Jackal, we don't have the Lion right now. We have an IQ, but obviously again, looking at the operators here, that's not going to help them to scope out a whole lot, of say for maybe catching a player on a phone or 2. Aside from that,
beginning
all coming to the drones. Fultz.
Well,
A little bit of that LAN adjustment, still getting used to it there.
Not online anymore.
Yeah.
Not online anymore,
Just
Toto.
couldn't get the nade angle right. Nah, that tends to happen.
Skimsy's pretty much pinched, though. I mean, this is a very difficult position to play. Oh, the dock angle through the floor.
Ooh.
Never mind. He can survive a little bit longer. But another nade being cooked. Skimsy can hear it. Jump out of the window. Do it. Fultz, he's watching. He's ready. A little bit nervous, Skimsy, but this is a very difficult position for him to play, but it benefits the defense. The longer he can hold on to it. 4 players on the top floor at the moment, and SSG are not calling their bluff. They want to clear this out, but that means they have to risk taking an engagement, and that's what SSG were betting on.
They're going to be able to read into that hop out, unfortunately, a little bit too telegraphed there. Skimsy with the pre-fire, just on the wrong window, obviously, so not going to be able to land any of those shots. Merc in the meanwhile, too, already with some intel on the player inside of Janitor, and the Janitor player, Morph, in this case, none the wiser to it. Merc will immediately hop into the site. Now, the immediate threat from up on top has been cleared, but there's still more, of course, as we can see. Akibio still holding just on the outside of stock. Still has a possibility to retake Janitor and cause problems if we saw an outright plant attempt. Still going to see it go forward, though, as the threat has been cleared out enough for Forrest to at least potentially attempt it. Once he gets verification that Tellers itself is not a threat. Maybe having second thoughts on that, though. Hop down openings that are currently being made. Akibio going to be found out now. Once again, you'll note he was roaming around Jay earlier, tried to make a re-entry into CEO up on top, got caught by it. Skimsy is here to support, but he's also got to watch out for the player that downed his own teammate just on the outside by Square here. Plan has obviously gone down, and the advantage is heavily in SSG's favor due to 6 Karma being pushed into a corner here. Not really a whole lot of room to work with. They'll get that down player back up, but immediately Houghton moves forward and takes them both down, leaving just Soko downstairs in the fight for a 1v3. Attempt to play this out, but once again, SSG just have too much control over the situation, so they take it instead.
Get a game seemingly won in the early round for SSG, but only seemingly, because they lost 2 of their entries, or 2 of their frontline players on that top floor clear, but what they didn't lose was Merc sneaking his way into security. Fultz and J90 got a lot of the attention, but because of how much 6 Karma put on that top floor, Merc made an excellent read, and once he killed that player on the hatch, which was the main player who could have rotated back, SSG had a perfect setup, even though it was even man count. Hot and Cold can not only watch the rotation down square stairs, but also take a fight with the Janitor player if someone tried to move back down that hatch, and Merc and Forrest had the sight with no vertical angles to watch that plant behind the rack inside of Tellers. So even though they lost the opening round, they went down 3-4 and only got 3-3 thanks to Merc. They still had all the control they needed because of, 1, how much resources, how many resources 6 Karma put on that roam, but also the control they were able to get by Merc's play and by Hot and Cold holding square.
All right, so the final round of the first half gets started now. There's a dead heat between these 2 teams currently, as SSG has just recently taken that small 1-round advantage. See if they can keep it. They're currently on the up and up as of the past few rounds here, so 4-2 half certainly alive for them, and that would be a big boon considering the issues that came up with their attacking side just in their matchup yesterday. If their defense is anywhere near the strength it was versus Elevate, in my mind, this should be a pretty quick closeout for them, but 6 Karma as well have their own capability to improve things on that attacking side, so we'll have to wait and see if they're going to be able to provide enough of a challenge to keep the game going, assuming they fall apart, because that's a big difference maker here. We could very easily see 6 Karma give us another fantastic roam hold, be able to get a 3rd round for themselves, and that will truly be at an even hold here. Merc, though, going once again for the basement, clear to start things out, bringing that shotgun into play with the Gara hook, so we'll see what kind of trickery he can potentially get up to here.
They just spot him. Merc almost slips by, was gonna go up that elevator hatch to catch Pachito off guard, but now he knows. But Merc's plan is not to get aggressive early on, even on this Amaru. He is the secret sauce for SSG, where players like Fultz, J90, or even Hot and Cold might get aggressive early on, or at least hold very active angles. Merc's plan is in the mid to late round to catch 6 Karma off guard, where they're focused on other positions. Just like that, Morphed caught down below on the roam. 2 supernova shots, silent but deadly. And he's taken down now in the 3v5. At this point, John, SSG might look to execute.
Certainly going to be leading towards that here with the numbers advantage. Alongside a few other factors here now as they make the leap forward. Skimzy gets away with one trade against the assault on Jay, but it matters not. Forrest takes control over by Banana. It's all up to Soko now, holding the inside of meeting. He'll get one, but loses a bit of damage from Jay on the way back. Monte can't do much about that, unfortunately. Tries to get the melee off, but it won't happen. And Merc comes in from the backside to shut it down. It's a 4-2 lead for SSG at halftime.
And overall, a very solid read by SSG. If they would try to meet the 6 Karma aggression early on, it seemed like a coin flip. Either they win the round or they lose the round. But if they rely on 6 Karma being the inexperienced team and they play their own game, and they specifically play to their strengths or their player strengths, like Merc just lurking, seeking an opening and then taking it when he finds it, in this case right here, and soon after when he sent it up the stock hatch, they could get rounds over 6 Karma, and it was in those rounds when that's how they played that they were the most dominant, and they matched 6 Karma's very dominant early round when SSG would buy into it. Now, as you mentioned earlier, John, SSG had a very strong defensive half against Oregon, but Oregon can often be a different beast than Bank. Where you like to play on the site, on Bank, you have to hold some map control off of the site if you want a decent chance at winning, and that's something SSG will need to do here against 6K.
SSG going for a heavy delay utility setup here. It's going to bring the smoke and the Goyo canisters into their basement setup. The Echo drones as well to potentially delay things even further and boost their roam game potentially with that extra intel that could come out from the more active Echo drones. J9O will also be ready to fight things off in the midst of a more chaotic gunfight, especially if we see smokes get brought to the table. Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of that coming in from 6 Karma. No Ying as well.
6 hard breach charges.
Yeah, oh wow, we do. Yeah, that's a good note there. But yeah, the Warden from J9O going to be a bit of a moot point ultimately. This is active ability though.
How you? Sorry, not to be that guy. How are you gonna attack Bank and bring 6 hard breach charges and no primary hard breacher? That's kind of crazy, actually. So they have plenty for the hatches, which is good. They have more than enough to open those hatches. But when it comes to actually opening up the server walls, that's going to be a little bit difficult to make work with only can openers, especially if you maybe lose someone on the entry. No flashes or smokes either, as you pointed out. So when you try to move into the site, you're really relying on some of that utility missing, or players from SSG losing their gunfights to you. Clearing out Forest as well, you've got no utility burn for those blue stairs. So if you had a Flores, maybe that'd work, but you don't have a Flores. You're relying on that Twitch to shock those ADSs.
We don't even have like a Zofia for like traditional stuns or anything like that to make up for that. So they're really at a lack for actual throwable utility right now on the 6 Karma side of things. So this could come back to bite them in a really bad way if they find themselves struggling for entries. Like you said as well, they're just not going to give themselves the best angles to play off of, assuming they go for the default execute of working their way through servers. So this is going to be very curious to see how 6 Karma try to make this one work, as SSG just not going to have a lot of utility pressure coming up against them.
Yeah, and SSG are also understanding the actual kind of control you need to have on Bank versus 6 Karma, because I said earlier, you need to hold some control on Bank, but that doesn't mean you need to do a very loose roam around the entire map or hold the top floor or even the middle floor. Just hold server stairs for half the round, hold the garage for half the round, and that can still be some of the control you need. They're not giving 6 Karma any openings. They're relying on them being a little bit slow and not being able to convert off of those openings. And now, as they're pushing in, the Goyos are still alive and the utility's still there. Occupil putting the bomb down behind the Monte. Nobody from SSG reacting. Nobody hearing whatsoever. Now we're in a post plant, and 6 Karma have all 5 of their players on board.
So the lack of utility ends up not mattering too much at all. Ultimately, at the end of the day, they force the issue into the site and steal a plant away from the hands of SSG. SSG attempting to retake map control up on the first floor here, but there's more than enough Overwatch for that. Thankfully, SSG are going to overwhelm the staircase with their own player count here, sending 3 up through the main stairs to try and retake it. They're successfully getting themselves out from the staircase. Moving past that is going to be difficult. This Echo drone getting spotted out is a big loss for SSG now as well. Could have been a big piece of the retake utility. Skimzy, look at this. The dirty peeks from behind the Montaigne shield gets him at least 1 against Forrest. Hutton tries to go for the first counter, and he gets countered himself. Soko shuts down 1 more, and it's all on Fultz in the 1v4. He'll be overwhelmed as well. And 6 Karma take the first round of the second half to bring us within a 1-round deficit again.
Gotta give credit where credit is due to 6 Karma. I was worried they were maybe taking a little too much time clearing out what was effectively nothing by about a minute and a half from SSG, but that was not the case. They saw all of that utility. The Yokais, the Goyos, the smokes that you knew were going to be there, even if they weren't actively being thrown at you, and they just said, you know what? Let's start baiting it out the moment we get in server stairs. I genuinely want some of you to time how long it took them from entering server to attempting the plant. because they knew that if they waited even a second longer, the Goyles would start popping, the Yokais would start moving forward, and the smokes would start landing. So their plan was catch them off guard, and SSG just straight up did not hear them, just did not expect them to move in that quickly because they had the C4s, they had the Yokais, and they had the smokes all in the proper positions, at least the smokes, and none of them went out and allowed 6 Karma to get that bomb down. And John, if one smoke had even landed, that's a completely different round.
Very much the case, but thankfully 6 Karma play heavily into the intel game. Find the moment of opportunity to get the direct counter against SSG and just force the issue. So beautifully done by them to seize the moment. Now with that, they are right back into the game. No true leader as of yet here at a 3-4 scoreline. SSG going to try to make up the difference here now with an open area hold. Once again, be playing quite heavily into that roam game when you can take a look at their operator selections for it. Fultz, of course, on the Mozzie. Merc now going over to the Vigil as well. Operator that tends to only really come out now in these situations where you're going to be playing heavily into your roam games. Let's see how 6 Karma look to counter that one back at us. They're looking a bit more traditional here compared to the last round with the type of utility they're going to be bringing to try and assault the open area.
Another main lobby angle held by the attack. Goes to open up that Kanto angle outside the elevators. I realize the Kanto caller is getting a little bit dated. He hasn't really played that position as notoriously has for a couple years now. So that wall outside the elevator, for any of you newer viewers, you can see right now, opened up by that Ash charge. Oftentimes we'll see players play there, get a little aggressive. Nobody's playing there right now. The benefit though, you can hold a very long angle or the bottom of marble stairs that we see Pachito doing right now. The power of this position is you can cut off basically the entirety of this marble stairs rotation back to the site, but Jane, I know, is looking to maybe move down towards the basement. Knows that rotating across from here is gonna be a very difficult engagement for him to win, but he just makes it back in. With only 50 HP left, but it seems like the top floor has been completely ceded to 6 Karma.
Some initial control being taken confidently by our attackers. A lot more rooms still need to be cleared out. However, having that top access and of course the capability to now pop all these top-down angles open is a big key piece of the puzzle. Finding an ultimately successful attack onto the downstairs site. Skimzy chucks that nade in to clear out some utility. Not really looking to find a player around the corner there. And meanwhile, the rest of SSG patiently wait to see if they themselves can capitalize on any over-eagerness from 6 Karma here. But they've got a good amount of control over the situation, not forcing the issue just yet. Once again, you can see the Buck biding his own time, opening up all the rotation angles so that they give SSG as little room as possible to work back into this site once the full commitment is called from the upstairs hold on 6K.
SSG playing a smart strategy. No 6 Karma are going to take a decent bit of time. Great C4 from Fultz. And this is even better because 2 SSG players are off site. One is planning to flank up marble stairs and one is planning to flank up blue. So no matter which way 6 Karma come from, because of how much time they've taken, somebody can hit the back and maybe catch those entries off guard.
No capability to open up the hatch sitting above open area now because of that one. The Zero had the only secondary hard breach on the team right now. So SSG is immediately going to come alive because of that one. 2 frags are found, bringing the count from 6K down to just 2 players now. Soko and Pachito are all that's left. The blue stairs player will be flashed out. It'll be Pachito trying to chase it down, but the team assist from Houghton. The cross to save the day, and Merc comes back up one final time to shut down the last player. Beautifully held by SSG in open area, and they're back in control.
Yeah, very, very well played round. 6 Karma will call a timeout now, not wanting to drop any more rounds. SSG in arm's reach of match point. 6 Karma had a very solid looking round in round 1, able to seize the moment and move in for the plant, but no such opportunity presented itself on open area. Can't just immediately walk in and rely on utility. There were still players that needed to be cleared or players that you had to worry about, such as that server stairs player in Merc and the marble stairs player in Forest onto the cap can. And 6 Karma spending 2 minutes and 15 seconds moving into the map and acquiring control. They were always going to have to reconcile with that and likely not only get the opening pick, but then make sure they maintain an advantage and don't start letting SSG trade those out. And unfortunately, the vertical angles and the utility did not get enough for 6 Karma. And that was just a very solid setup for SSG, who are realizing if you don't give 6 Karma the openings in the first 45 seconds to a minute, it's going to be a much more winnable round than if you do.
Fultz, of course, picks up the big nitro kill there that really puts a wrinkle in the plans for 6 Karma there. Good to see that impact being made from Fultz, as it was a little bit of a struggle for him in the opening game from SSG versus Elevate, but I think he's improving that quite a bit here. As You can see on the scoreboard there down from the right side. In this game versus 6 Karma, just 2 more rounds needed for SSG to shut this one down. Keep in mind, of course, this is a best of 1 upper bracket, of course, so it's not going to lead to the potential elimination of 6 Karma just yet, but it will send them down there if that prophecy comes true, so to speak. But 6 Karma up against NIP for the final matchup of this group, the final spot in Phase 2.
That'll be a rematch from earlier, of course, if it does happen. 6 Karma maybe surprising a lot of people with that 7-3 victory over NIP, though NIP are certainly not the team they once were. 6 Karma is still looking like a threat within this group, especially if they can get a couple more rounds against SSG. They've taken that timeout. They're bringing the Nook for Soko. Try and channel some of the energy we saw from Merc on SSG's attacking half. Lurk at about 1:30 in the middle of the round when SSG are focused on other things and not really thinking about flanks. That's also why SSG have that Valkyrie, have these black eye cameras in and off of the site to see if there's anybody moving down below or anybody moving in suddenly to counter what happened in round number 7 and what could happen in round number 9. With the CEO defense, you always got to be careful, John. These window angles, they can be so powerful.
Immediately, Skimzy hopping into stock, just stealing that control away. Entry already made onto Houghton as well. Akibiel still on this repelled angle that you mentioned, waiting for a cross to come through. But oh no, 6 Karma gets a little bit too aggro here. Skimzy continues to try and maintain an aggressive angle to try and take down the players inside of meeting, and finally does pay the price for that one. Even trade is exchanged, of course, discounting the extra bit of damage that was also done to Merc there. Overall, though, back down to the 4v4. Again, those repelled angles still not finding any success just yet. It could change. You can see Akibiel and a few others trying to get a bit more aggressive. The nade goes deep, and it's not going to find a kill, but Soko does find success elsewhere here. Once again, probably towards that stock angle, as he's able to take down Forrest now for the 2nd kill of the round. Let's try to get a little bit curious there from Janitor, but we'll have to bide his time. Obviously, this is a bit of a tense scenario for both teams, so it looks like a bit of a break for both of them. Just Akibiel moving in now to square to take a little bit more map control.
This nade below from Janitor. Once this hits, 6 Karma will look to move in. There it goes. Fultz removed off the board. They can now push in from square, apply pressure to Janitor, and Merc's going to need to be the front line to fend off this attack.
6 Karma continuing to move forward in honestly a pretty straightforward fashion here, just forcing the fights very early on against SSG. As a result of that one, continuing to clear out more and more map control, more and more potential site plant opportunities as well. Such as right here, where again, they bully Merc out of positioning on the inside of Janitor and force him away from the situation. J9O is now all that remains up against the 1v4 from the Banana side as well, so does not really have the capabilities to deny this plant. Shots are already starting to ring in against him, and finally, on the repel, see Morph pick up the final kill of the round. Just like before, we've got 6 Karma still in the fight as they punch back one more time here to keep themselves just within an arm's reach of SSG's own scoreline.
You got 6 Karma showing that if they feel that there's an opportunity, they will not even hesitate for a second, not even really think about it. It's instinctual, just hop in and take the gunfight. Skimzy catching SSG completely off guard, catching that stock player completely unaware. And even though it gets traded out, it's still enough to throw the defensive positions a little bit out of whack. Because now you don't have that forward stock player, and you're really relying on, I was going to say, the Janitor player in Fultz, but Forrest holding that long haul. And 6 Karma were very intent and very cognizant of the positions they wanted and what they needed to clear. They whittled down that Janitor side and that stock side one by one, even though it took 2 minutes and a lot of utility and a lot of focus. But once they had it again, they moved in and won the round afterwards. There's a very strong level of decisiveness from 6 Karma that is very admirable.
5 seconds to go.
6 Karma looking to truly close the gap now with one final round. We've been seesawing for this entire half so far. No one really able to find an outright amount of consistency here for 2 rounds or even more than that. See if they can finally change things up against the second basement defense from SSG. Montaigne is coming back out to try to make these things, a little bit easier. And once again, it's still heavy reliance on the secondary hard breach going to come out from them as well. We do still have the frag at least from Akibiel this time. And once more, that same issue of not necessarily having access to the execute utility is going to be present here as they try to prioritize not needing to bring a direct hard breach instead. This worked out for them last time, but mainly due to timing. So we'll have to see if they can pull that off once again.
And J9O will switch to the Pulse, which should solve some of the problems from last time, being that lack of intel, lack of information on the Monty and the Planter, the duo moving in and putting that bomb down on server. Hopefully with a pulse inside of gold, they can see if anybody tries to quickly move in, tries to catch him off guard. I mean, you see Jan, I know, sitting in basement right now, trying to find that intel in the early round, of course, but still very close by to move into the site. If 6 Karma decide to go for server, but Monty moving down the marble stairs so quickly. I mean, there's not much he can do unless Skimzy decides to try and, or Akibil in this case, tries to pre-fire from behind that Monty shield. This would certainly be probably one of the weirder opening rounds I've ever seen if that were to happen. Instead, 6 Karma have just moved in the first half of the round. SSG are acquiring some intel, but it's pretty much all quiet on bank.
Yeah, SSG once again playing heavily into the bunker they've set up for themselves downstairs. Not a whole lot for 6 Karma to clear out inside of the opening few moments of the round. Now they're just going to be quickly working open the hatches that they'll have access to. Plenty of course, due to the huge amount of secondary hard breach that has brought 6 of those can openers for this round. 1, of course, just being used. Fultz takes his first shot, but it's going to be against Gemini, so nothing really to steal away there. They get the intel that he is inside of the garage. It's not necessarily actionable at this point, just due to the 1v1 nature of what's been deployed there. Akil actually takes a lot of damage from something. To follow through on where exactly that came from.
Gotta be the Cade.
Yeah, a moment or two. We'll continue to see, though, the overwhelming amount of utility pressure against the Monty takes him down, and now Fultz sinks the shot against Akibil. Headshot as well. Didn't even need that extra damage that had been done before, but has a false sense of security about his situation. Soko moves in, getting revenge for his fallen teammate. Jane, I know, quickly course corrects elsewhere on the map. It's still very much SSG in control, with things being brought down to a 4v2. Denial of the additional pressure that may have come out from Soko by putting the Toxic Babe on garage entry, but Morph doesn't care. He's going to force it anyway. Going to play directly for elevator control. Not sure if he's realized the second player sitting around the corner just yet. That could lead to his death if he's not careful, and indeed it will. J9O steals it away from Morph, and it's not too much of a difficult task for Merc to pick up that final kill as well. SSG, the first to get the map and match point. Now time to see if they can just close it out.
Just one more round, and they will join the Sonics in Phase 2. They'll be the second, not only team to qualify, but second North American team to qualify to Phase 2 out of the play-in stage. Those are the only 2 North American teams that were even in the play-in stage in the first place. So NA would be on top, as they say, no near airport, at least in Phase 1. But they still have to win that round, and 6 Karma only have 2 that they need to win. We'll move back likely towards open area. The CEO is still locked, and now Lockers is locked once again. Or CEO is not locked. They did lose it, but likely not going to go to it because open area is open, as I was going to say.
Yep, there are better sites available, much better to the second floor, so they'll go back over to the more preferred one instead. Still a bit of a risky one when it comes to the defense. A lot of things that can go wrong here, especially if you don't get good control or time-wasting capabilities inside of the early rounds. The 6 Karma with a good opportunity to at least push it to the limit here. A potential 12th round if they can find success on this one. Keeping with the Monty for this assault as well, but there's going to be some other thematic changes, most notably Akibil going to be going off on his own with the Nook this time around. We do see more of that execute utility finally coming forward. This is very much required for this site. Morphed, of course, in the Zofia, Soko as well, bringing forward the Ying. They try to get just enough control here. Finally pick up another round and at least stem the tides as they try to work their way into OT. Cheeto wasting no time, and meanwhile immediately going for electrical control. Start moving forward.
Houghton not trying to let a Monty slip in a sight unnoticed. He'll have a shield facing the square area just to make sure that nobody pushes on in. 6 Karma maybe looking to take this very direct, not looking to acquire too much map control, just open up that square wall and then move on in through the cafe door and whatever breach they decide to make. They don't have any hard breach, so if they want to do that, it'd be a little bit difficult. They've switched to smokes on the Monty. Morph hopping in very quickly, but SSG are not suffering any fools. Khan's able to put him down to low HP. And about a minute in, it's still very unclear what 6 Karma want to do. They've got a couple players over towards open area and 1 player lurking around the map as the IQ, but beyond that, still no solid control.
Very slow wind-up here so far from 6 Karma. There's some good reasoning behind that, as you can see here. Quite a bit of dangerous intel for the defenders spread out across the map, such as that Valkyrie camera that Skimzy just hunted down. And of course, SSG are aware of the fact that camera went down, so Fultz immediately looking for that player. Has missed the transition by a few seconds, but Fultz is going to get another opportunity as Akibil also moves in from the small office, it looks like. It's spotted out by a roaming Fultz. Possibility for Skimzy, though, to walk right into the site, and indeed he will. Steals the only in-sight defender, and now puts one on top of that, too, leaving room for Pachito to move right through E and take a plant opportunity himself. It'll go off without interruption, but on the way out, there's quite a few opportunities for J9O to strike, and unfortunately for the SSG fans, they are missed. Locked into a 3v3 post plant now between both teams, and SSG is quickly trying to work this from the top side as Force runs back up on top. There's nothing to be found here. Soko was present a second ago, but he's rotated completely outside, and is more likely going to play things from the retake angle just over by the big window to get themselves into copiers. Away from that, though, SSG trying to move around this, trying to counter the angles that 6 Karma had just set up for themselves. That includes pretty aggressive run out there for at least one of their players, and they overwhelm the Monty, but look at that, morphed as well as Soko do have the winning angle aside from that one. So they're gonna be able to shut it down and take control of one of the 2 rounds needed here to trigger overtime.
And with lockers, well, locked, so to speak, SSG can't go to it. They now have to decide with their tactical timeout that they've taken, what site do they go to? They've just lost open area by placing too many defenders around the map, and once 6 Karma realized the site was free, only if they got 1 kill that Skimzy was very eager and very successful in acquiring. It fell once the attack realized that opportunity. So now SSG in a difficult position. Good coordination on that Monty, I will say, but still, 6 Karma got the control they needed. They didn't overextend themselves. They didn't need to clear out all of those roamers. They just needed to cut on in, put the bomb down, and then play for the post plant. But now, John, where do SSG go?
That is probably part of what's being discussed here inside of the timeout. A lot of input coming in from their coach as well. Just 1 round is needed, so strategy could be focused on that. But if they're thinking about the worst case scenario here, just due to how unpredictable this matchup has become, they may also be looking towards overtime, and some additional discussion may be going on for that as well. But it looks like they've made the decision. Obviously, you guys can't see it just yet, but we do have the in-game view. And they are going to be returning to open area now that that timeout time has just come to a close. Let's see if the discussion makes up enough of a difference for them to close this down 7-5, or will we be going to overtime, where 6 Karma will still have that opportunity to steal this position in phase 2 away from SSG.
It's definitely the best decision for SSG in this case. You haven't gone to Teller's Archives. You don't want to try out a new site on round 12. CEO, of course, you also lost it. You don't want to go to a site you're 0-1 on. Might as well try open, which not only you're 1-2 on, but the mistakes they made were decently obvious. Just too much focus put on that roam, or even if you had a lot of roamers, they seemingly were not in positions to rotate back to the site. Some were inside of Tellers, but the control was already established so quickly by 6 Karma that rotating back, rotating even close by, did not get them any of the gunfights they needed, did not get them any of the control taken that they were looking for. Pachito running that Monty once again, and this is what I want to see from SSG. When that Monty gets close, or when players get close to the site, are they in places to rotate back, or is there more than just hot and cold sitting inside of cafeteria? Because 6 Karma are not a team you could just count on making mistakes. You can maybe count on them being slow, maybe count on them taking a little too much time, but if you give them a wide open hole in the defense, they're not a team bad enough to just not take free money.
I do think SSG got baited into a bit of an active retake there as well. We had a little bit of a Scooby-Doo house chase between 6 Karma and SSG as they were trying to retake control of that site. They would go upstairs, Soko then would go outside, then SSG would rotate someone outside and go away from the upstairs control they had taken, and then someone from 6 Karma goes right back in and retakes that upstairs control. So SSG just didn't have a great read for the retake. They're obviously a chaotic situation, so you can't blame them too much for it, but just could not really capture the positions in post plant there the 6 Karma members were trying to play into. So you're gonna have to watch out for something similar here. The good news is they have much better overwatch, it seems, on all the extremities of the site, so they're not really going to give that free entry opportunity over to Skimzy that allowed the plant to go forward so early on in the first place here. This is being played much more slowly by both teams here. 6 Karma trying to heavily prioritize the upstairs control, and SSG realized this. The player in J is gonna back down here now that we reach the 1.5-minute mark.
6 Karma realized they can't just send it into the site like they did before. They'll need to do some work. And this is where SSG's game plan does work out. It's taken a 1.5 to just push those roamers back off the top floor. And 6 Karma still haven't actually utilized any of that control to open up angles or what have you. Merc has taken his position in blue stairs. Forest has taken his position over by Marble. This is the same way that SSG played that open area attack they won back in round number 8, and 6 Karma are falling into some of the same traps when they lost it, taking a long time, giving themselves up to potential flanks. If they're not aware of Merc and Forest, round 12 might just go the same way.
Being pressured back down to the bottom of blue. He has created a relatively decent safety zone for himself and not having to worry about flanks from dirt tunnel or anywhere else from the basement. Quick glance of it, there was multiple goo mines stacked at both of those angles. Now he can have a relative assurance that he can play things out from the top of blue without any worry. Pachito tries to go for the outright peek to the inside of the site, gives himself away to J90. Hot and Cold also able to finish off the remaining HP on Skimzy, and Akivil also going to be found out. Morph is the first pickup here from the attack, but it won't last. He also gets traded out. Everything falls to Soko now, who starts things off well, but immediately flatlines here as SSG shut it down and secure phase 2 positioning with a win over 6 Karma. Stick with us, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back after this break to break down the game and, of course, have an interview with our winners. Welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen. Just finished up our matchup versus 6 Karma and SSG. For those who weren't here to watch it, well, first of all, spoiler alert, but SSG did ultimately end up taking it at the tail end of regulation. Needed to take it all the way to round 12, but ultimately controlling things at a 7-5 scoreline. I think the big key piece, the puzzles to how they were able to do that, once again falls back to the experience that a team like SSG has just overall in this kind of how long they've been inside of the scene here. Their ability to kind of adapt to tough situations such as a 3v5 and some other kind of bad spots they were put into shined out very bright here to allow them to take this inside of regulation, I think.
And I think the way something you actually said before the game even started exemplifies that very well, which is even though that 6 Karma, just in the record of this stage so far, are 2-0 on this map and SSG were 0-2 on this map, SSG weren't playing the map, they were playing the matchup. They knew if they made mistakes or if there were shortcomings, they could adapt to it, and that while 6 Karma showed very good form and honestly looked very scary against NIP, who they've already beaten inside this tournament so far, SSG just looked like the more experienced team and the more capable team when it comes to adapting to what they did wrong and fixing it before it was too late.
Yeah, and obviously let's talk a little bit about 6 Karma here as well, who in my opinion still gave a really good performance here.
100%.
Certainly still going to be in the running when they now have to face off against NIP in the final matchup of this group. Round 7 is a perfect example of that one. Right as we got into the second half here, we saw beautiful play. You and I were extremely worried about their capability to even win that round due to a lack of execute utility, but they find a perfect moment of opportunity to just throw themselves into the site and take full control anyway. Beautiful stuff like that is what is potentially still going to allow them to come out on top of NIP and potentially still take that second spot from this group in phase 2.
They're definitely my candidates. I think when you look at some of them, the newer regions appearing here, LATAM or MENA, I always thought going into this that the two teams I thought that might be not really controversial, but maybe less likely than teams like from North America or Europe, even some of the APAC teams to make it out, was Falcons and 6 Karma, with the two teams I thought can maybe upset at least bigger names and more well-known names like NIP to make it through. But of course, SSG have qualified for Phase 2 alongside the Sonics. They're our first two teams, and now we are in a position where not only for the remaining 2 games today will we decide who qualifies, but also we'll send 2 more teams home.
Very much the case, ladies and gentlemen, but that is going to do it for this matchup. However, before we get ourselves ready for the next one, we still have that interview with our winners. Let's send it back down to the stage where we have Merc ready to be interviewed.
Yes, Merc is here indeed, and congratulations. You guys are the second team to qualify for Phase 2, but also the second NA team. So how does that make you feel?
It feels pretty good. We've been working really hard before this, and all our work's starting to show. The longer we stay together and go through the tournament, the better we'll get. So I'm confident with how we're playing.
Speaking of the hard work, I want to talk about the pre-game celebrations that you had. I'm pretty sure my microphone was picking it up. So walk me through it. Before a game starts, what do you guys do?
Yeah, before a game starts, we're all big football fans. So we kind of snatched one of the college football hype chants that they do, and we just made it our own, and it's pretty cool. It gets us all pumped up, ready for the game.
Do you have a favorite team?
No, I don't.
Okay, fair enough. So it was actually also a really close game, and in that regards, what do you do to be able to stay into it and from a mental side of things? Because you're on land, you can hear them scream, they can hear you scream, so what is it?
Yeah, I mean, when they win rounds, we obviously made mistakes that costed us that round, so we just kind of regroup, focus up, get prepared for the next round. We don't really care what they have to say, or when it's in the past, it's in the past. We focus on what's ahead. That's it.
Okay, speaking of the past, actually, week 1 from NAL, it felt a little disjointed, but there's been such a big improvement from then until now. It really feels like you guys found your style as a collective 5-man. What's been the main driving force behind that?
Just chemistry. The more we play together, the more cohesive we get as a team, and we just needed more time. We still did really well stage 1, but just like I said, the longer we stay together, the longer we scrim, the longer we do stuff, we're just going to keep improving as a team.
Well, you guys have improved indeed, and thank you so much for the interview. We're going to be heading to a break. We'll be back shortly.
Last man alive is Necrox as MVK is on the floor. It's looking. Oh my God! They did it! They've done it! A double APAC semis.
I remember I looked like this to Kanto and Bill. I'm like, what is going on? And it's just one of those this should not be happening, especially not against such a strong team as EG, and it did.
Fnatic demolish EG with a 2-0. Dizzle takes it.
There's rare coaches that have been able to achieve what he has. That's immensely unusual.
It is Evil Geniuses against Fnatic, a match that any esport would want to have.
Yeah, 2 big organizations with a ton of history in esports behind them, but one has a bit of a Himalayan mountain, a Herculean task ahead of them.
The night before we were supposed to fly out to Brazil, I get a bit of a stomachache. I try and, take pain medication or something. Nothing works. They run a couple tests on me, and I finally get the news that I have appendicitis and I need to get surgery right away.
He was not able to fly to Rio de Janeiro for the Pro League Finals at the time. This is your in-game leader. It's your captain. It's a big, big problem.
The unofficial ruling was to be that we could find a substitute as long as they weren't contracted to an organization and hadn't competed in any of the Pro League circuits around the globe. Yeah, basically we had to make the call, and it's look, there's nobody else. I guess I'm just going to have to play.
Normally when a coach has to become a player, we're always thinking that's going to go terribly wrong. And to make things worse, Dizzle came from Xbox or console, so he didn't play with mouse and keyboard before.
It is interesting, though, when you have the coach playing, because he's potentially coaching in real time, especially as they've lost their IGL.
It had been almost 2 years since I played competitively, but that having been said, I generally always had a competitive spirit and I have nerves of steel.
And Dizzle will clutch it! Fnatic to take the 3rd round!
Dizzle in that event was called Diz God from that moment on.
Round 4 for Fnatic, and APAC 2 rounds away.
I knew he was a good player on Xbox, but I mean, I knew he knew how to play the game. I just didn't know if he was like mechanically up there, and obviously he was apparently.
We knew, like, if we're going to win, it has to be on Oregon. And the call came out and just said, guys, we need to get out there, need to give them pressure. Like, just don't let them get comfortable, don't let them execute.
I'll never forget Aces bringing FO12 Ella and jumping out the window on Oregon from Armory, and then, you know, getting 3 kills and finishing up the game practically for his team.
Last man alive is Necrox. It's looking, oh my God, they did it! They've done it! They've done it! Fnatic demolish EG with a 2-0.
Look at that, they can't believe it. We can't believe it. The crowd can't believe it. And they just got destroyed by APAC.
It definitely sucked not being there, but I just thought it was great that the guys won without me and they won with Diz.
I just couldn't believe it. Like, the crowd went up, and I'm just sort of sitting there going, like, is this real? And then to have like all the thousands and thousands of Brazilian fans like chanting and stuff. We've never had so much support before. It was absolutely incredible.
Welcome back. With the win from Spacestation Gaming, we have already confirmed 2 of our winners today that are heading into phase 2. Both of them happen to be NA teams. We still have 2 more teams to qualify, but also, unfortunately, 2 teams to be sending home. So let's have a look at the bracket to see exactly how we got here, because Group B so far is looking like Spacestation Gaming qualified, and that's correct. Ninjas in Pajamas are now up against 6 Karma, and that is going to be a best of 3 to determine which team is going to be heading to phase 2 and what team will be going home. Now, Group C, the second group of today, is going to be qualifying whether Northeption or Revan. That is to be decided by the best of 3 that we're going to be looking at right now. We're heading into the best of 3 territory, and again, as usual, although I'm hosting, I'm only going to be casting because we do have lovely people for that. And we are bringing back the Aussie duo. Hello, guys.
Hello,
You
we're
guys
good.
haven't changed.
No, we haven't. Maybe we could have taken your advice on that one, but maybe another day. Jenny, big game coming up though, of course. It's always a fun one, these, because it's an elimination game, but also a qualifier game.
Do you guys want to like spice it up and throw in some predictions?
I'm going to have to go Northampton. No bias attached to that.
Northampton.
No, no bias?
Yeah,
Oh.
no bias. What's your prediction,
I would like to know why that's the case.
No bias?
No bias?
We're on the copium.
We're on the copium a little
Okay,
bit. We need
fair
some
enough.
kind of APAC love,
Yeah.
but I want your thoughts very quickly.
I'm going to go for Raven. I mean, they've won the last match as well. It was pretty convincing. If history does repeat itself, that could be the case, but whether or not that will happen, it's up to you guys to cover it.
Yeah, certainly so. Well, at the very least, it's a best of 3. So, I mean, there is a bit of room for error for both of these two teams, but not too much, because if you do have too many errors, you're going home. That's the way that it's going to play out for this game, of course. I think Northampton, only based on previous history coming into this tournament, I thought they had a really good run in. Of course, they're a team that already lost to Revan, though, so there's a bit of that copium there. For Revan, I thought they were actually very competitive against the Sonics earlier this evening. They were very strong. What was a 7-4 in the end was the result, but there were some very competitive rounds in that. So I think for us, being APAC, we'll obviously give Northampton the benefit of the doubt, but I think everywhere else, Revan probably come into this as the favourites.
Yeah, Northampton haven't had the best of BO1 form. Even through the Japan League, it wasn't particularly convincing. However, come playoffs, that's when they really shone through. They did fall short to Scars 1-3 in the grand final. That's why they find themselves in phase 1 to begin with. But, you know, they got the job done against La Vega 2-0. That should have been convincing. It was. So they have some positive signs heading into this one, but it is the asterisk on the best of 1 performance against Revan, right? It's very, very hard to say Northampton are hard favourites, or maybe even favourites at all heading into this match. Maybe we're the ones on the fringe, on the outside, predicting them to maybe edge this one out. But I think it should be competitive.
Now, the last time these two teams played, of course, back on day 1, it was Oregon. It was a rather comfortable win for Revan. We probably felt Northampton coming into that game would have actually been the favourites before it was all said and done. Now things change, of course, as we go to the map vetoes. Of course, this now being a best of 3 does shape it up a little bit more to be, you would imagine, an area where both teams should get what they want. Skyscraper, Revan get to go back to Oregon, a map where they've already found success, of course, back on day 1 against Northampton. Chalet, the decider. Now, you would imagine Skyscraper, a map that obviously Northampton are going to be very happy that they got, but they do allow the Oregon to get through.
Yeah, I think Oregon was always going to be a target for Revan, and I think Northampton sort of conceded that and said, you know what, it's best of 3, we'll let you have that, we can bounce back on the 3rd map. They did try, I think, open up the opportunity for Villa as that decider, at least from the perspective of Northampton, but it got shut out, much similar to the best of 1 veto. I think played out in a sort of similar fashion where Northampton were probably quite happy for it to be let through. Was not the case in the end. So I think on the balance of everything, it's pretty even veto. Northampton perhaps not overly thrilled with that decider, and given the way that the other 2 maps have been picked out, they probably do need to win it in 3, so it could come back to bite them.
If you look at some of the bands that played out last time these two teams met, of course that being a best of 1, so we don't look too much into it, but you know, Cafe, Theme Park, Bank, Chalet, they were all taken off the board early, so we're obviously seeing some similarities here. I just felt like if you've already lost to a team on a particular map, don't allow it through a second time. We'll see, though, maybe Northampton will feel like they can get some redemption. But before they go to Oregon, they go to Skyscraper. They go to their map pick. They go to their home. They've got to win this, though. They lose this, I don't know how they win this series.
Boom. Yeah, this is going to be a good game. I'm keen. We need to see something from APAC. We have waited a long time. We have been disappointed time and time again. It's been dominance from North America today. No North America team taking part in this one. In fact, technically Revan, oh, they're not even a European team. They hopped over to LATAM, got their spot, made that run, and now looking for their position in the 2nd phase of the Copenhagen meet.
Now, this is something that obviously Northampton wanted. They got it, but guess what? Revan are a team that have actually got history on Skyscraper. When you look at the LATAM last chance qualifiers, guys, they played it twice, they won it twice. So they are actually as familiar with this as any other map. I think if I'm on the side of Revan, I'm laughing. I'm thinking we've absolutely storm blasted this map veto. We've demolished them, we've won it, we get our map pick again, and we get to go to a map that we are comfortable on. This is heaven. This is amazing.
Heaven for Revan.
Heaven for Revan, yeah. And the Montang immediately banned out. Now, we saw a little bit of it back on Theme Park, of course. They actually utilized it themselves, but I honestly felt like the Sonics got the better of them. So Montang does get taken off the board. Northampton, a team that probably not too surprised to see getting rid of Dockerby. It's a firm favorite in the APAC region to get rid of Dockerby. And then from there, defensive bans will be along the lines of your Azamis and your Valkyries as expected.
Yep, so Valkyrie taken off by Northampton, not too unexpected. So again, probably leaves it up to the Azami, perhaps a Solace as well. Pre-placed drones are incredibly potent on a map like Skyscraper, which is split in two, but it will be that Azami. Teams not wanting to deal with that additional util on the board, and I think you mentioned it in our first game of the day. This has been a pretty defender-sided tournament thus far.
It has.
And that even is with Azami being banned out more often than not.
Yeah, and I mean, rightfully so. Azami is just incredibly strong. Those keeper barriers, there's so many of them. I think that there probably will be surely a nerf at some point because she's just basically a hard ban at this point, especially throughout this tournament. We've seen that. But ultimately, as we come into Skyscraper, the biggest thing I'm looking for is how Northampton are going to go on the attack. That's my premise for this match. Attacking APAC team, can they do well? They get to start on the attack at the first half. Fortunately for their sake, this though in my mind I think will be defender-sided on Skyscraper. At least that's what we typically see in the APAC region, featuring an APAC team. And I think with Revan's confidence on this map, having played it recently in the LCQ for LATAM, they will be very comfortable here. We head over to Tea Room and Karaoke to begin, but Northampton, all eyes on them. Have they got the attacking prowess to break through Revan?
And they have the pressure, the expectation, not only, I think, on this roster individually, but the region as a whole. I use quotation marks because APAC technically doesn't exist, yada, 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 but Japan, Korea, OS, Asia, they've all had a pretty rough run of things here in the first phase, so Northampton will want to try and buck that trend. Joe, though, spawn peeking. We saw the aggression against Sonics, and even they struggled to deal with it.
Well, put it this way, Revan could very well be the first team eliminated from the tournament that's not from APAC. That's how bad it has been for APAC teams, but what a start from Sharif, who finds the opening kill in this one, and probably a lot of expectations on him to carry the load here for Northampton. He top fragged in their game against Revan, picked up 11 kills. No one else on Northampton even having over double the amount of kill, or having double-digit kills in that match, so expecting Sharif to lead the way. We know what Nina is capable of, especially on the entry. Sayachan, another fragger too, so they've got the firepower. It's all about just putting it all together. They've got the opening kill in this one. Revan on the back foot.
All eyes for me, though, on Runner on the other side for Revan. 3-3Ks in the last matchup between these two. So he was on an absolute heater. Northampton did shut him down, but right on cue, they did this time. So that's a small improvement, a 5v3.
Perfect start, though, for Northampton to get the opening 2 kills. Good map control, good map presence. We're not seeing Revan really meet them head on. They allow the entry, and Skyscraper is a map that's all about map control. As you see, Draw just kind of push up here. Through statue, 1.5 minutes. He wants to move away from that shield, has been droned down. Now he's in a very precarious position out in the open, needs to get back to that shield. Otherwise, he's going to get caught out on an island, and he will get punished for it. Tries to find the swing, and it doesn't work. Not really able to get any damage back, and he loses almost like 80% of his health.
So a good start then for Northampton. And they'll just prep themselves for the final push. 70 seconds on the clock. Draw, of course, low on HP after that previous engagement. They were just about consolidating this information and playing off it, and Wrath gives a freebie on the flank.
So this round's over. This round's over. It's done. Forget about it. Move on. Northampton are going to get the opening round here on the attack. Draw, though, with a nice kill, but so much more needs to be done. 1v3, pretty much not going to happen. We need to reset some of the expectations here, because the commentary around APAC as a region at this tournament, obviously, well-deserved. It's been shocking. Northampton is from Japan. Japan is meant to be the best from APAC, and Northampton is a team that has a lot of form coming into this tournament. I was surprised when they lost to Revan. I would still be surprised if they lose this series, and they start the way that I expect them to start. They are a solid team. They can frag. Probably one of the